Welcome into this week's edition of AWA Unleashed. We are the preeminent and number one, self-proclaimed number one podcast and video stream dedicated to the American Wrestling Association. I'm putting it out there, and if it's on the internet, you guys, it's got to be true. So let's go ahead and let's add in my two cohorts here, Mick Karch and George Shire, and I said that we're the number one podcast and video stream, and that's what we're going with this week, you guys.
Absolutely. And you know what? And if we're not, we really are. But if we weren't, it's wrestling. So
I've heard wrestling and fictitious, right? Those two words go together, or is it bullshit? Or how is it? Yeah.
What?
Right, I know.
You guys are implying an awful lot here. But we are number one. Believe it.
Absolutely. No, yes. and glad to be here. And I saw at an independent show last week, I saw a lot of AWA Unleashed T-shirts.
Love it.
It's tremendous. So very, very happy with how we're going. Love it.
And you guys, I know we had talked about a couple things that we were going to do down the road. Well, let's just say we're what would they say? This is hot shot booking, as they would say. We were able to line this up, and you guys are really going to love it. We're not going to tell you what it is. You'll find out here in a couple minutes. But before we do, want to thank our sponsors as well. You can see right up there, 7th Avenue Pizza, the best frozen pizza on the market, bar none.
Oh, it's good.
See, you guys actually, you had some.
It is really good.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, it's frozen, but it doesn't taste frozen.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny is Karch eats it frozen. That's the way he does it.
Well, it's so good you don't even want to put it in the oven. You just want to take it out of the wrapper.
Thanks for bailing me out on that one, Chris.
Yeah, you should see him eating a pizza. His whole face is in it. I've been there.
Hey, Mick's living his best life right there.
You're damn right.
So I want to thank that. Also want to thank Liftbridge as well. We'll put them up. They've got great beer, you guys. It's summertime. It's super hot. You want to, maybe you're into the Farm Girl. Maybe you're into the hazy IPA. Maybe you're into the margarita hard seltzer. And for those that indulge, check it out. They've got great pop as well. LiftBridgeBrewery.com. Want to thank them. And also, you guys, Soda Stick. Before we get going, we've got Soda Stick. They are the only place, you guys, to get exclusive AWA merchandise, AWA Unleashed merchandise. That means if you got a T-shirt or you've got your personalized hoodie. By the way, if you've got them, send us a picture. Send it to mickkarch@gmail.com or gshire@comcast.net, because if you do, you send us a picture of you wearing your swag, your hometown, your favorite AWA wrestler, and we'll get you on the podcast. I mean, and we've had people that have been submitting it. I appreciate it. It's been great, and we've got a lot of fun things on the docket. But before we get to the special guest that we've got coming up today, I know George, one thing, wrestling today compared to what we focus on, it's different, right? I don't think it's worse. It's just different. And part of that is actually because of the way that it's presented.
You're absolutely right. Mick and I, we go back. I mean, we're older than you, Chris. And we go back to a golden age that we call it in the 60s. And the way wrestling was presented back then was a little bit different, because each month, every couple of weeks, whatever town that was promoted, they would have what they called house shows. They were in the big arenas, the auditoriums, the National Guard armories. But to promote those programs, to get fans to want to run, don't walk, to buy their tickets, as Marty O'Neill would so appropriately say, they had a television show. And any promoter would always tell you that in order to get their product over, they had to have wrestling on television. Mm-hmm. Here in the AWA, we had all-star wrestling. And it originated from the Minneapolis territory, the Calhoun Beach Hotel in the beginning. And what was different about the product then versus today is that they would never put a high-profile match on TV, with but rare occasions when they were building a storyline or setting up an angle for a feud or something along those lines.
Mhm.
But usually, you'd have, as we're going to refer to.
I love your cat, Mick, by the way. I got to admit.
I know. I'm just.
Sorry.
I'm hoping against all hope that the cat wouldn't be audible.
I'm gonna mute your mic. I love you, Mick, but I got it.
I completely agree. I'm going to mute the cat myself here in a second.
I'm so sorry, George. All right, go ahead, George. I'm sorry. It's a lot of kitty cat talking.
Yeah, Mick, I could have a different name for that kitty cat and cart, but we won't go there. Anyway, television wrestling was presented differently back in the day. They would never show the high-profile matches on TV with two main stars against each other. What they did was they would have a Verne Gagne or a Mad Dog Vachon or a Nick Bockwinkel or whoever the top tier wrestler was. They would have them wrestle against what was in the day known as a jobber, or as we so appropriately like to call them, enhancement talent. And these were guys that most times weren't full-time wrestlers. A lot of times they were just picking up some extra cash or living the dream, trying to get into the business. And they were usually not given any type of a push. And most fans sitting at home, they realized that maybe they weren't going to win. It was going to be Nick or Dog or Vern that was going to, the Crusher, get the victory. But they were there to set up that match. And they'd have their moments. And believe me, they had their fans. And that was what was different about then. Today, it is different because they show big matches on television. Pay-per-views are the big idea out there. So we started talking, Mick and I and you, Chris, and we said, boy, wouldn't it be fun if we could maybe get one of the enhancement guys on? And I just thought it was a novel idea, and I put it in Mick Karch's hands because, after all, he is the voice of Minnesota wrestling, and he had a chance to work with some of these guys. And so, Mick, what'd you do, my friend?
Well, first of all, I hope we have time to bring the guest on. But other than that...
Well, your cat is the one that interrupted the thing.
Anyway, you know, in wrestling history in the AWA, there are some memorable names. George was talking about the enhancement guys from TV. And we have one of the absolute best of them all as a guest on our show. Let's bring him in. The one and only, the legendary, there he is, Nacho Barrera. I'm telling you, I don't normally applaud a guy when we have him on the show, but Nacho, you absolutely deserve it, my friend, and I am so very happy to have you on board.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I really enjoy you guys talking, you know.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm going to toss it to George actually for question number one. We're going to go back and forth, and we're going to pick the brain of Nacho Barrera today.
Nacho, I echo Mick. Great to have you on, and we're glad you get to have a chance here. We're going to put you over today.
Oh, thank you, George.
I got a question. I want to start off. I want to ask you this. Obviously, you came to Minneapolis and you wrestled the TV cards. I want to know who contacted you. Did Verne Gagne contact you? Did you contact him? How did that negotiation go about?
I started working out was in Chicago was Blackie Guzman and Sandy Acosta, Jose Betancourt, Andrew Rivera, and
Right.
And then they told me if I wanted to go to Minneapolis to do TV tapings for Verne. So I said I would love to because I've seen him when I was a kid. I used to see him all the time, and it was my pleasure to go see him. So I went up there for the first time. They introduced me to Verne, and Verne told me what was my name. I told him my real name is Nacho Barrera. So he told me I like that name, so I'm not going to change it. So I said, "Oh, thank you." So after that, I started working for him.
That's fantastic. You know, and talk about a typical day, Nacho, because I know a lot of, and some of the guys you mentioned, my God, Santiago Acosta and Angel Rivera.
Okay.
Love it. Great memories. talk about a typical day. I know a lot of the guys came in from Chicago and some from Milwaukee. So take us through a typical Saturday. What was all involved?
We used to go. Blackie used to pick me up about midnight on a Friday, and we used to drive all the way to Minneapolis for 8 hours. And it was a long drive. And once we were up there, all the guys were real friendly. Like Billy Graham, he always used to tell us, "How was your trip coming up here?" And real nice guys. Ivan Koloff, Verne Gagne, Verne. Verne was he was always good to me. Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic, George. Georgie, you're up.
Well, about how you were accepted by the top tier talent, and were you welcomed in the dressing room by all of them? Did they just work you through it, and how did it go?
Yeah, I was welcome with all the guys that were there. They accepted me, and I never had no problem with none of them. They enjoyed working with me and stuff like that. And Billy Graham used to tell Wally, "I want Nacho this time." I said, Wally used to tell me, "You had him last time, so I still want to wrestle him this time." So I kept working for him.
What a feather in your cap! I mean, that's fantastic. And to get the admiration of your peers like that, and a guy like Superstar Graham. When you came to town, Nacho, when you worked in those AWA TV tapings, who was kind of the go-to guy that would give you, your kind of instructions, the layout for the day? Was it Verne or Wally, or who was it?
Wally Carbo.
And how did you get along with Verne and Wally?
Real nice. I got they were really friendly with me, and I didn't have no problem with them. They were great for me. I guess Verne and Wally were one of the best promoters I ever worked for.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
That's really refreshing to hear, Nacho, because there are times when we hear that some wrestlers will say that it was harder to work with Verne or harder to work with Wally or other promoters. And so to hear that you had a good relationship with them and that they took care of you in that sense, I like hearing that. I have a question. You mentioned about Superstar Graham, for example, asking you to be his opponent or for you. Were you ever given the opportunity to tell Wally who you would like to go in on a particular card and wrestle on TV?
No, we never told them because they were the one that they used to tell us who you're going to go up against with.
Okay, so basically you came into the studio in the evening and they just told you who you're going in with, and you went from there.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Great.
Nacho, you worked, you mentioned Superstar Graham and some of the other guys from back in the day, and you mentioned Ivan Koloff. And I mean, you were part of an AWA roster in what we call the golden age, the golden era of wrestling, where it really mattered. People loved watching the old 2 out of 3 fall matches on TV or what have you. What you said, you got along pretty well with everybody else. I would have to think that there were maybe a wrestler or two that were a little bit stiffer, a little more difficult to work with. Do you have any on your list that would fall into that category?
Like probably would have had to be like Bruiser Brody.
Oh boy.
Yeah, him and Jumbo Sharuda, Mr. Saito. they were kind of. And I worked with Verne one time, and he got me in the head scissors, and I beat him. And he said, "You son of a," And they told him, "Watch your language."
Oh my gosh!
But
Nacho, you'll never work in the AWA again.
That's right.
That's a Verne comment that we heard a few times over the years.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned Bruiser Brody, and what a reputation this guy had. So first of all, when you found out you were going to get into the ring with Bruiser Brody in the AWA, had you ever worked with him before? And did he talk to you ahead of time and basically say, "This is what's going to happen," or did he leave you no choice and you just had to go in there and do whatever he said?
Yeah, we just went and do whatever. He didn't even tell us nothing. He just go in the ring and that was it. He took over the whole match. And but before that, I picked him up at the hotel in Chicago, and then we went to Rockford. And he was a real quiet guy, real nice guy. But in the ring, he didn't know you. He was real tough.
All business.
All business, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you faced them all, Nacho. I think that's great. Interesting comment too about Jumbo Sharuda and of course Mr. Saito. George, you and I have talked many times how tough Saito was in and out of the ring.
You'd have to have a death wish if you legitimately picked a fight with Saito. Probably Brody too. I mean, they're gonna make funeral plans for you if you get in their way. Nacho, you talked about some of these guys and you've mentioned them. Is there one particular wrestler that when you came in on a regular basis that you always enjoyed working with? And if you'd have had your say in it, you'd work with him every night. Is there one wrestler that stands out?
Yeah, probably Billy Graham and Buck Zumhofe, and they were real. Steve-O was really good. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Superstar Graham. I mean, that's high honor indeed. Absolutely.
We've mentioned that the era that you wrestled in, and you wrestled from the 70s into the 80s. When you look back on that roster of the superstars back then, and George and I have said it's probably the best overall roster in the history of the AWA. Mm-hmm. You work with Greg and Jim when they got into the business.
Right.
Ray Stevens. When you look back on that now, Nacho, and you compare it to the business today, first of all, do you follow the business at all? And secondly, how do you make the comparison?
It's very different from today. Because before, they used to give you like a body slam and whatever, two drop kicks, and that was it. Yeah. Now they do a lot of finishes, and the match keeps going on and on and on, It's very different from today.
Did you have an opportunity? Well, I should fast forward a little bit. You came into town, and sometimes you would work TV, and then you would go right on to a house show. I know you didn't work a lot of them, but periodically you would work a house show in the Twin Cities area. First of all, that had to be an awfully damn long day, coming in from Chicago the night before, and then you work TV, and then go on to the auditorium or whatever. Did they ever at least compensate you and, give you a few extra bucks and make it worth your while to work that house show?
Yes, Verne usually paid the house shows. He paid him real good. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I got a couple of house shows from St. Paul. I got like $200-300,
Wow.
So that was all the house shows that Verne paid. He was the best payer in the area or the whole territory.
Fantastic.
Because I went to work for Joe Blanchard in San Antonio, and then I went for the Chic at Michigan. All the other promoters they didn't top the price that Verne was paying.
George, we've heard that more than once over the years that Verne, despite whatever problems people had with him, the payoffs were the best.
That's absolutely true. And, Nacho, I was going to lead up with a question about working other territories. And, we have heard over the years that there were wrestlers that they wanted to work for the AWA back in those territory days because it was a good paid territory. And most of the wrestlers will tell you, even if they had a problem working with Verne or something, that they still were there because of the payday and also because of the lighter schedule that the AWA offered the wrestlers versus some of the territories that were, running every night of the week and hundreds of miles apart between cards. So I was going to ask you, now you mentioned Joe Blanchard and you said you went up and worked for the Sheik in Detroit. That would be Ed Farhat for our fans that don't know their Sheiks. They're Sheiks all over every place you go here. So we want to make sure that we get Ed Farhat in there and they don't think they're working for Cosro or somebody, Adnan. Anyway, so when you worked for those guys and having the experience of working for Verne, was it different in the sense of how they paid you? Obviously it may have been less as you're indicating, but did you have a chance to work with the guys that you still enjoyed working with, or was the territory just totally different?
Yeah, it was way different. The rates, the prices were all were very low and stuff like that. Uh-huh.
Talk about, I'm thinking in my mind back to those studio days at, Big Mark that I was and still am. I used to go every week to the TV matches, sit front row at the Calhoun Beach Hotel. And I keep thinking back to that roster that we talked about. So if I toss a couple of names at you, Nacho, can you just, give me a couple of lines, just what your feelings were about that particular individual? Because I know you've wrestled them all. I'm going to start with Nick Bockwinkel. Talk a little bit about Nick.
Oh, Nick was one of the greatest. He was a great champion, and I was wrestling Nick Bockwinkel in the studio, and I was wrestling with him, and then he tells me after the show, he tells me next time we work, Bobby Heenan is outside the ring, getting the people going, so they're not watching me and you in the ring. So next time, just lay down and wait till Bobby Heenan finish what he's doing, and then we go back to wrestling.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow!
That's what he.
That's and of course, we love Nick, and we've heard nothing but good things about him. So we wanted to go to the horse's mouth and find out what it was like to work with him. Let me toss another name at you here, Larry the Axe Hennig.
Oh, he was a fantastic guy, real easy guy to work for. And I never had no problem with him or Kurt. That we were real good friends. So.
I asked Paul Pershman, Buddy Rose, one time. He had taken an axe from Larry Hennig in the ring, and he said, as good as it looked on TV, Larry was light as a feather with that axe. Right, I imagine you probably took an axe or two over the years from Larry Hennig. Was he as light as Paul Pershman said?
Yeah, he's 100% right.
Oh my God! Wow, who would ever figure it?
Yeah, that's like the one guy out of everybody. You're like, no, that's the guy that's going to lay it in. That is so interesting to hear. That was there one guy, and this might have piggybacked maybe off of the Jumbo and the Bruiser Brody stuff from before Nacho, but was there anybody that when you got into the ring that you were just a little, like you knew they were going to go a little stiff and that maybe you'd have to match tit for tat with them?
The Road Warriors.
Oh my God.
They were real tough. Nobody wanted to go up to Minneapolis when they knew they were up there.
Mm-hmm. Did they? Was it a situation where they just didn't want to sell for you, or what was the story there? Or did you try to match up with them and they just wouldn't have any of it?
You try to fight back, but they didn't sell you, and they just kept going at you, kept going. They didn't want to work. They just wanted to do their stuff. That was it.
Man, wow.
And they laid them in there. They were pretty tough.
Was there a match that you remember where you had to actually, when you mentioned going tit for tat with somebody and giving them a receipt, maybe for a potato or something? Any match that you can remember that maybe got out of hand just a little bit, or was everything pretty well self-contained?
No, I never had no problem with none of them.
No, go ahead. That's a great line, because you hear about the heat that a lot of wrestlers have with each other.
Right. The only thing I wrestled Rick Martel, and I gave him an arm drag, so he felt the wrong way and he hurt his shoulder, and he told Wally, and Wally came up and told me, "You hurt Rick Martel." I said, "Well, I just threw him." He doesn't know. I don't know. He just got hurt. So I don't know.
So was it Martel's fault that he went the wrong way?
Yeah, I think it was his fault because I threw him an arm drag and he felt the wrong way.
Those kids. You can't work with those kids.
Rick Martel.
Yeah.
You should have beaten him, Nacho.
Okay.
Hey, when you were in the ring with just a vast array of different type of talent on just a consistent basis, did you enjoy working with the more scientific, as they referred to them as, like the Don Morocco or the Verne Gagne or Billy Robinson, or were you better off with the Larry the Axes and the Bockwinkles and Mad Dogs? Which one did you prefer, or were they different at all?
Yeah, they were different, but I prefer working with Nick or Larry Hinnon, like you say.
Wow.
Now,
I can't imagine there's any, but we haven't heard that too often, that somebody enjoyed working with Larry Hennig. You were a tough SOB, Nacho, if that's the case. Hey, we just saw a picture of you and Hulk Hogan on the screen just a couple of minutes ago, and I know I've seen that on your Facebook page, and that's kind of a moment in time. Talk about working with Hulk, how that was for you, how he was to work with, and just the idea that you're getting in the ring with probably the greatest star from that era.
Oh, he was real light, real easy to work for. He would sell you a little bit, and then he'd take over and stuff like that. But he was I used to travel with him and stuff, and a real nice guy.
Wow.
But he was real easy.
We're hearing about all these guys, in the 6'3", 6'4", 300-pound range that were real easy to work with, and then we hear about Rick Martel going the wrong way on an arm drag. I want to toss a couple of other names at you because my memory is going to. Did you ever get in the ring with Mad Dog Vachon?
No, I never worked. I never worked him.
So you
that's the reason you're still here.
Probably. I heard he was rough.
Yeah. He was a pussycat in real life. Trust me. Just of a guy. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was a real nice guy.
Did you ever have to take a chop from Wahoo?
I never worked with Wahoo either.
There's another one you escaped.
Now we know why you've had the longevity you have.
I know.
But you took an axe and you're still here, so I guess it would have been all right.
Yeah, right.
Nacho, this is something that I find real interesting. When we talk, we're an old school AWA broadcast.
Okay.
And when we talk to the wrestling fans and we ask them to submit questions and so on and so forth, a lot of times they're not even asking about the stars. They're not asking about the Crushers and the Larry Hennigs and what have you. They're asking about guys like you. And this is dead serious now. They talk about you. They talk about Kenny J. They talk about Scrap Iron Gadasky. So they're remembering the great days of TV. So I want to ask you, how does it feel to be remembered so fondly after all these years by the wrestling fans? Because they love you. I mean, you're one of those guys that absolutely is thought of fondly in the business.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. And it's a great feeling because the fans are, I love the fans, they're the greatest.
Did you find, as you were going on in your career, was there a point that you kind of accepted this is what I'm going to be, an enhancement talent, whatever you want to call it, or was there a point early on maybe that you thought things were going to be a little bit more in the spotlight, more high profile than they were, or was it just kind of right from the beginning, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I felt.
So what did you do when you weren't wrestling?
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask.
I was driving as a construction truck driver. Yeah.
The good old days, George.
Hey, back in those days, Nacho, when you were doing your regular job, did people recognize you a lot? And did they stop you and say, "Are you Nacho Barrera?" Did you get that a lot?
Oh yes, up in especially in the shopping centers and stuff like that. They they got a lot of fans, and they said, "I wish we had a camera or something." But I gave them my autograph, and it was real excitement.
How long did you work, Nacho? How many years were you in the business?
Like 31.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I started like when I was 17 with Verne, all the way to 91 when he stopped, and then after that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You were just a kid. You were a kid when you got started.
Yeah, 17 years old when Blackie took me up to Minneapolis. So. Yeah.
I'm hearing you talk about some of these names: Blackie Guzman, and we mentioned Acosta and Jose and Angel Rivera and so on and so forth. Did you guys all come from basically the same training camp area or the small town shows, or how did that camaraderie come about?
In 1969, my brother-in-law, he was running Mexican wrestling from Mexico at the Chicago Coliseum, and that's the way I met all those guys from. And they had a gym up in the north side of Chicago at Broadway Avenue.
Okay,
that's where we twice a week we used to get together and train and work out there. Mm-hmm.
Did you work the amphitheater shows at all? Did you ever have an opportunity to do a house show in Chicago at the amphitheater?
No, not that I remember. Mm-hmm.
Well, then you escaped there too, because that place that was legendary. You know, we had shots fired at Verne and Nick and Bobby Heenan and so on and so forth. I'm going to toss another because these names keep coming into my head about the guys from back in that day. Billy Robinson. Did you have an opportunity to get in the ring with the shooter, Billy Robinson?
No, I escaped him too.
Well, I
never had the opportunity.
I think we're onto something here that you got to stay in the ring with Nick, Superstar Graham, and Larry Gagne, and then you've got a chance to talk about it after the fact.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Go ahead, George.
Well, I find it so enamoring that you didn't have aspirations to become a full-time wrestler. And let's put it this way. If it would have been presented to you by one of the major promoters, maybe Verne or one of the others, to say, hey, we'd like to put you on regular and we're going to work out pay for you, would you have taken that route? Would have been something where you'd have lost the keys to the truck and been in the business?
That's what I wanted. And one time we were at the Pavilion in Chicago, and then Mr. Crockett from Atlanta, Georgia came in, and I was talking to him because he needed some guys to go work for him. And then Verne was standing in front of me, and was Dennis, the promoter from Milwaukee.
Dennis Hilgard.
Yep.
Yeah. So Verne sent Dennis to go see what they're talking about, and then Mr. Crockett told, I'm talking to Nacho because I need a couple of guys to work for me in a steady up in Georgia. And then Dennis told, no, he can't go work with you because we need him over here. So the next day, I had to go to Rockford, and they Blackjack Lanza called me, and he told me the show's you canceled. So he canceled that show for me. And then the next week I had Milwaukee, and they canceled it.
Oh boy!
I had a couple of shows that I guess Verne got mad, and Verne said, I remember his words. He said, I make a lot of these guys famous, and they want to leave me.
Boy, can you imagine that?
Right.
we have heard that.
Wow.
So many times, Nacho. We heard it from Steve Regal. We heard it from Jesse Ventura. All the guys that owed Verne their life over the years. Wow.
Yeah, incredible. And after that, so he punished me for a little while, and then after that, he called me back. So I started working again.
He sent you out to the woodshed for a little bit.
Yeah, he sure did.
Nacho, this is going to kind of take a different track, but in looking at your Facebook page, you are. This is what enamors you to me. I see so many family pictures, and you seem to be such a natural, down to earth family guy. Talk about how important family has been to you over the years, and how accepting were they of you as a wrestler?
Well, we're real close together, and all my brothers and sisters, they love wrestling, but they supported me all the time. They enjoyed watching me and stuff like that.
Was it only travel on the weekends for you, or were you working spot shows periodically during the week, or was it basically all weekends?
All every weekend.
Okay.
When I was up in Minnesota, I was up with doing shows for Bruiser in Indianapolis.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And we were working up there too. Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in. You said you were a truck driver. Was this an over-the-road truck driver where you go from coast to coast type thing, or and weekends were available? How did that work for you to be able to schedule your weekend wrestling?
No, it was very easy because we're working like just local around the area in Chicago and stuff like that. Yeah, so we were off the weekends anyway.
Nacho, when I was working the very short time that I was with the AWA, and I asked you before we came on if you had worked some of those showboat shows, and in fact you did. I remembered it was either you that I was thinking about that I introduced, or it might have been Greg Gagne. I kind of get the two of you confused.
Oh, okay.
Easy confusion.
Yeah. I have talked many times about how things were different in the AWA towards the end of the run there, going into the late 1980s and early 1990s. When you were there, and even in your enhancement role, did you sense some tension? Could you feel that things were a little bit different than they were, back in the 70s, whatever, when you were doing TV in Minneapolis, and now you're at the Showboat, the crowd there, you got some empty seats there and so forth. Verne's trying to compete with Vince McMahon. What was it like back then?
Yeah, you could tell it was almost the end. And I was talking to in Vegas, I was talking to Buddy Landell, and he went there for a little bit, and then he said, "I'm not going to come here no more." So I told him, "Yeah, I think Verne's just about over, Yeah.
I remember Buddy Landell coming in, and why would he he wasn't here very long at all. So why would he that quickly decide? Could he just see the writing on the wall that this is not going anywhere, and so he left?
Yes, I think that's what he kind of told me the same thing, that he was ready to go to it because he didn't see no future or something.
I think the same thing probably happened with Dick Slater. I remember Dick Slater came in for a while, and Billy Jack Strong, Steve DeSalvo came in, and they were in and out. Just
in and out. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, you could tell that that's a shame. It was sad though,
Well, Nacho, with the way the business has evolved to what it is today, and it's different, apples and oranges as far as presentation and delivery and that sort of thing. If you were 17 years old again, young guy, would you be looking to get into the business as it is presented today? Or would you have second thoughts?
Maybe I had second thoughts.
And what would the reason be? I mean, would it be because you are not into the or the presentation as it is, or what?
Yeah, that's probably why.
Okay.
Little too theatrical for you?
Yeah, I think so.
You might have to climb 3 ladders and come off the roof of the Cobo Arena or something.
I don't think
come on, Nacho. I mean, look at all the lucha guys and all the high flying maneuvers they're doing. I could just see you, Nacho, climbing a 17-foot scaffold and doing like a triple moonsault. That wasn't in your repertoire, I'm guessing.
No, he wasn't.
I'm guessing.
You're right.
I'm guessing Mick didn't want to get into that handicap match with Bruiser Brody, Mr. Saito, and King Tonga.
Right.
Let's talk about a couple other guys, because I mentioned Jesse the Body Ventura, and I know you had an opportunity to at least hang out with Jesse. Talk about him a little bit, because when you talk about the characters in professional wrestling, Jesse is right at the top.
Oh yeah, Jesse was he was a really nice guy. He used to talk about stories and make us laugh. He was always making jokes in the dressing rooms, but real nice guy Jesse was.
Wow. Okay.
Let me ask you this. When you talk about the personalities, and we talked about how Mad Dog outside the ring was really just a gentle man. When you look at some of the wrestlers that you had to work with, were there any wrestlers, Nacho, that were living what they did in the ring, and they were really that way outside the ring, and it was disturbing? They walked into their own ego and couldn't get out of it.
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
No?
Well, that's good.
That is good. I could think of a few that I think would be a little hard to deal with outside.
Maybe probably like Shawn Michaels, maybe.
Oh,
interesting.
You mean Sean? Sean believed his own publicity. Is that what you're?
Right.
Now, did you have a chance to work with Sean when he was in his early years in the AWA?
No, I never did. No.
Never did. Okay.
No.
All right, let's talk about a guy that you had mentioned early on, because we have talked on this show that we think that overall he was probably the best overall entertaining talent of them all. And I'm talking about Bobby Heenan, because Bobby could wrestle, he could manage, he could talk, he could do everything. To me, the guy was a genius. Well, you were there for so many years with Bobby. Talk about him a little bit, would you?
Oh, Bobby he was fantastic. We traveled together, and one time I was going up to Rockford, and I had a car, and he was on the passenger side. It started raining, and the water kept coming in his face, and he said, "Nacho, I just took a shower. I don't need another shower." And the window didn't go up, so he was something else. He was a great talker. He knew he was real good to the business.
And you got in the business. What year, Nacho, did you start?
Like in 71.
Okay, so Bobby had already been in the business for a handful of years before you got in.
Yes,
Okay, because you had mentioned the connection when you wrestled for Bruiser up there a little bit, and of course that's how Bobby got started, was
right
with Bruiser. Just very quickly before we let you go, all those years and all those guys that you were in the ring with, and some of them were the absolute monsters of the business, and I'm still absolutely stunned that Larry Hennig would have been one of the lightest guys that you worked with. Was there ever a time that you got into the ring, whether it was in a house show or on television, and you really got seriously banged up, where it got to the point where you had to let the referee know, hey, I got stiffed, I got potatoed here, let's take it home?
No, I never complained about it, but I remember one time we were in Green Bay, and I think I wrestled. I forgot who I wrestled there, but it was I could barely walk. I had my back was hurting a lot, and then Kenny Pantera looks at me and he says, "That bad, huh?" I told him, "Yeah." He just shook his head. I couldn't walk that good. My back was killing me.
Did you have a chance to work with Ken Patera at all over the years?
Yeah. Oh yes, a lot of times. He was easy. He real easy.
There's another one.
That's amazing.
He was fantastic. He was a great gentleman.
We hear this, and again, to the average wrestling fan listening at home, and they hear about all these guys that were so light in the ring and so easy to work with, and to me, you're not going to think of Ken Patera, first of all. You're not going to think of whoever. Did you ever work with Baron von Raschke?
Oh, a lot of times. He was another easy one.
Well, yeah, and in and out of the ring, Baron is just a
fantastic, wonderful guy. Real easy match.
George, for me and you, this is really a kick, because we want to get somebody like you on the show, Nacho. Kenny J, we haven't been able to get Kenny, out on his lawn for a while. George Scrap Iron Gadaski, of course, not with us anymore.
He was a great guy, George. I met him a lot of times.
Did he build you a barn too? The way he stole Verne's plywood and built his own barn out there in Amory? Did you build a house courtesy of George?
I heard about it, but no.
I want you to know, speaking of scrap iron, I do have right now up-to-date photos of that barn, and I'm going to post them on my Facebook. Okay. I got them here a week or so back in Amory. Nacho, I just want to say this before we do let you go. I have nothing but the utmost admiration for guys like you and all of the others, the enhancement talent, as we call them. You guys, you honestly did not get the credit that you deserved for what you did on you weekend warriors, as you were known. And I just admire all of you who put the boots on, put the tights on, went in there, and what you did for us. We watch TV, and believe it or not, we were always cheering for you. We wanted you to get that win. We knew that the dog or Bruce or Brody or whoever was going to kill you that night, but it was fun. I really bless you for coming on with us and taking time out of your day, and know that you were loved.
My pleasure. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We're so happy that you were here. I mean, Nacho, you're still here to talk about it. You know, you probably ran into more knees and elbows than an orthopedic surgeon, but you are legendary, my friend. And honest to God, and I echo exactly what George said, the memories that you provided for millions of AWA fans. I mean, hold your head up high. You are the real deal. And we're glad to call you a friend.
Thank you, Mac. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. What a guy.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great because it is for me, guys. It is one of those, and we talk about it now. The back in the day, you're like, this jobber, this guy's gonna. But you realize that without somebody that could make the stars look good,
right?
Those stars are not stars without people like Nacho. And if Nacho's not as good as he is, and takes it as seriously as he does, you don't have the Barons and the Hogans and the Larry the Axe Hennigs and the Mad Dogs. You don't have those guys that are presented in the way. And I think that's the one word, presentation. And he helped get them over.
Oh, he did.
And when you think about what he says about Larry Hennig giving you that axe, and it looks so real. I mean, Larry knew how to deliver it, and it looked real. And for Nacho to do the flip and sell it, and then he says it didn't hurt. I mean,
he was light as a feather. I'm like, that can't be. That can't be. It doesn't look light, so it can't.
Yep,
I mean, that's
selling it like he was hit with a semi for Larry Hennig. I mean, God bless him.
You know, we've talked so many times, guys. Modern day wrestling fans just don't get it. You know, they've been spoiled by 5 main events on a show. We're talking a small studio with guys that came in, like he said, the night before, driving 8 hours all night from Chicago to come in to work TV for maybe $50, maybe $100, whatever it was, and turn right around and go back to Chicago. And here, all those years later, everybody still remembers the Nacho Barreras and Kenny J's of the business. And what a testament to that guy. And down to earth. I have wanted to get him on this show for a long time, and I'm glad we did.
Well, and the thing is, too, when you look at Nacho, here's a guy who he admitted to us that they didn't talk over the match before they in the dressing room or the locker room. He says he goes to Bruiser Brody, what do you want to do? And Bruiser just goes out there and tells him what to do. So Nacho, you got to give a guy like him credit because he's doing this all impromptu. Whatever Brody or whoever the opponent is calling in the ring, and Nacho's doing it. And it makes it look real. And there were very, very few jobbers out there that could do it as good as Nacho and Jay and Gadasky and so many of the others that we could make a list of.
Well, and I think that's part of it, guys, the authenticity, right? It was real because you didn't know what was going to happen because everything, if you're calling it in the ring, you might have an idea of what you're going to do, but until it happens, like your reaction and the way that you're selling it is real. Like the fans are seeing you react in real time. And that's something that we don't get. Again, I don't think today's wrestling is worse. It's just different. It's a very different product than what we had before. So again, this has been great. I'm glad that we were able to get Nacho. And I know that the fans, when this thing drops, I know people are going to love it because of all of the emails and the texts and the messages that we get. So want to thank Nacho again for taking his time out. And by the way, want to thank 7th Avenue Pizza. You can check them out if you've got, if you're looking for something, a nice, fun, quick meal, and it's good quality pizza. 7th Avenue Pizza. Mick, you've had it. I've had it. George, I think it's
one. I'm going to find one. I'm heading over.
I think it's sold out in your area. That's how popular these things are.
When was Karch in town? Jeez.
Well,
the man is absolutely relentless, and I hope, against all hope, that maybe just one small piece of pepperoni finds its way into your throat. I don't want you to pass away or anything, but I just want you to struggle for about 5-10 minutes And that will be all the karma that I need. But back to the pizza. The worst thing you can do, Chris, is watch a wrestling show while you've got that 7th Avenue pizza in front of you, because all of a sudden, you got nothing left. You know, the pizza's all gone. You've scarfed down the whole pizza, and the WWE is still in their first opening promo.
I know. Well,
no, it's
yeah, that is the which will not be named. Well, if you want to wash it down with something, get a farm girl, get a hazy IPA. I know I'm going to
wash
right
it
now.
down with a farm girl. Oh my! Early in the program, Mick is talking about his pussy coming in here for the show. Oh my God, what is happening?
Farm girls a drink. I don't.
Oh.
You got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, the man is on work release, so we have to put up with him for a few minutes, and then he'll go back to his cell. They'll lock him up. They'll give him some oatmeal, and he'll be good until next week. Oh, what a man.
Wow. So that being said, want to thank Soda Stick as well. If you got your AWA swag, send us a picture with you wearing the T-shirt or the hoodie. Send it to Mick, email, or George. Or, send it to me on Twitter, your name, your hometown, your favorite AWA wrestler, and we'll get you right here on the show. So that being said, guys, by the way, one last plug, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really helps us grow. Whether, you want to listen to the audio, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever. So there's our shameless plugging, and guys, good stuff. And yeah, Nacho was great today, and I know that he's waiting, and I know there's going to be more shenanigans to be had, but this is great.
Chris, I just want to add, when you talk about YouTube, I've had 2 people that have sent me a text wondering, how do I subscribe? Oh. And I've explained it to them. It is so simple. Just go right below the podcast. There's a subscribe button. You hit it. It doesn't cost you anything, and you'll be notified and get all of our shows. It's that simple.
If Shire could do it, anybody can do it.
Exactly. If
that monkey can do it, anybody can do it.
If I knew how to unsubscribe Mick Cart, believe me, I'd be sitting on the button.
Sitting on the